Let's see. Do you want to do it? Yes. All right. It is. I got to go through the ad to make sure I can see it, but I think it is working. Awesome. All right. Let me switch my video settings to full screen. And that way, we are good to go. All right. Welcome to Lunchzone. I'm your pilot today, Ren. I'll be taking you on flight. What is it? I think his name is... Yeah, I got it. Okay. Flight 727. There may be a mild amount of turbulence and some time travel, but, you know, we'll keep it as clean as we possibly can. My co-pilot today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kelly Breivik, PhD student. Is this first person? I know nothing about this game, and yet I am co-piloting today, so tell us more about this and why you chose it.
So this is a first-person shooter from 2014, done by Respawn Entertainment. Maybe most of fame for Apex Legends at this point.
Okay.
It is a shooter, but it's kind of a hybrid shooter first-person platformer. You'll see what I mean. It's going to be pretty wild.
I dig it.
I wanted to play this game specifically because there are some set pieces that are... I would say I've never seen anything like them in any other shooter. So mechanically, it's a very interesting experience.
Cool.
But, you know, well, I don't want to spoil much. I've picked two particular missions. We're going to do Effecting Cause and the Beacon. And I'm not going to stop to shoot people, so we're going to go fast, I hope.
Hashtag gotta go fast.
Yes. By the way, I should probably give you a quick primer on the story at this point. I'm playing as Rifleman Jack Cooper, which is like white guy supreme mediocre name ever. My Titan's name is BT7274. I think it is. Maybe it's just 727. I can't remember. It's BT. He's BT. It's kind of a buddy cop story, but like they dropped us in on a planet. The guy who was originally the pilot of BT's died in combat. He transferred control of the Titan to us. So now we are trying to complete a secret mission to gather data on this super weapon that the fascists have developed.
Pilot, Major Anderson is here. Investigate this facility.
And we have...
We'll meet you on the other side.
We've just arrived at the facility.
It's too quiet. We could be walking into an ambush.
Agreed. However...
So just as a heads up, I will be popping in and out of watching because I am the worst with motion sensor games. If I'm not commenting on the gameplay, we'll...
That's alright. I'm probably gonna have to tab out here quickly because I can barely hear you, and sometimes my computer audio is just bad. So let me duck the...
It's also definitely my microphone.
This game is not heavy on audio cues, so I should be fine. But obviously, like, immediately we have these, like, weird time dilations. Kind of like a fun thing here, if I ride the wall and jump up here on the platform, if I get close enough to that guy, he'll, like, talk to me. Yeah. Right now it's just like a gimmick. You know, oh man, look at this cool visual thing where we can do. But, like, it gets better.
I mean, wall running is always, like, a sign of badassery. Like, what's it called? I think, is it Lucio that you could run up on walls with Overwatch?
Yeah. Lucio rocks. It's hard to stream for the first time in Bunny Hop, so that's not happening.
Hopefully Anderson's alive.
Anderson is a veteran SRS pilot. He has survived multiple covert missions within enemy territory.
So here's BT just picking up corpses.
The genetic profile with Major Anderson.
Which is...
He may still be alive.
Wow. More respect, please, robot. Just throw people on the ground. That's not fair.
I recommend you check the main lobby.
I'm digging the sort of rainy aesthetics. Like, alright, so I'm a sucker for not just like the sort of rain, but like just weird shit flying in the air that could get struck by lightning but don't.
Lucky you.
Oh, yeah. This? All these, like... I don't know what they are. They're like lizard bat things. But yeah, they're just hanging out. I like this guy, personally. He's just... like, where the concierge should be, but it's just going to offer me, like, essentially the equivalent of C4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's fun. Also, just, like, animal design in this game, everything's a lizard, and it's kind of awesome. Like, I don't know what they did to, like, come up with these ideas, but whoever was on the development team for that, like, nice job. Yeah.
BT, I found
So
Anderson.
what about this separates it
in the
from
ceiling.
other first-person shooters for you?
We have rendezvous with Major Anderson.
The movement is kind of the obvious
It's cold, BT.
situation here. Like,
Anderson's current temperature is 17 degrees Celsius, below the threshold of human survival.
thanks, BT. Really helpful. But, you know, also the conversations between BT and Cooper, at least in passing, feel fairly well written, believable.
With the death of Anderson,
Otherwise, two characters that are pretty boring
now transfers to
become a little bit more interesting than they would in a normal campaign. These guys have worked on some of the Call of Duty campaigns as well, so as far as like beat for beat, it's very standard. But, you know, mechanically there's a difference here, which you'll see more when I actually get into some combat and playing around with some of the set pieces. And I'm not just watching hollow logs of people talking, but, you know, it is what it is. As far as, like, the actual content of the game, it's basically Star Wars. Like, it's basically just Star Wars. A nobody from nowhere happens to get a superpower-ish thing that allows him to assist a militia in stopping a giant death weapon of a fascist empire.
be bound to uphold and fulfill special operations.
It's not a nuanced story.
Anderson's wrist-mounted device before proceeding.
I didn't see any device on Anderson.
It must be on the other half of
But, like, you know, outside of that, it has some
Detective Breach.
really interesting bits.
I will provide access.
This is so much speaking, I feel bad speaking over it.
Here and scan the ring structure while you investigate.
Yeah, I love the,
and the
like, I mean, not just in buddy cop style, but, you know, just banter between two characters that just have a good working relationship with one another.
Nice. Maybe next time you can throw
And
me.
especially, like, and here's the thing, I mean, not to relate it to the sort of, shit show that is the world right now, but the dry humor that comes with, you know, making fun in the face of a pretty gruesome situation. You know, so I imagine that, like, the humor with these sort of clips that they'll have with one another is funnier than it would be if they were in a sort of, like, neutral or happy situation, because they're, like, looking at a pile of, like, corpses, and they still say something funny.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like I would say that's very true. They find a way to be like relatable, despite there's no reason a person would ever be in one of these situations. You know, I mean, you know, fascism obviously is rather relevant to today's socio-political landscape, but like running through a broken down facility with bodies everywhere, not really gonna happen. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe I can bunny hop this. Okay, there we go. Somebody call Eric, I just speed ran.
Nice.
But, yeah, I mean, and also, like, how many buddy cop FPS games are there?
I would not know because I don't play FPS.
Totally fair. I would say most of the genre is not really worth your time.
Huh.
Sorry, Anderson.
Like, the only one that I could sort of do sometimes is Overwatch, but that's only in, like, small, like, 3-round bursts.
Yeah, and Overwatch has a lot more, like, character than a lot of FPS games do. All of the rest of or a lot of FPS kind of looks the same. So now we get my favorite button prompt of all time ever. Press mouse scroll wheel to time travel.
Ha.
And also, the game gets interesting. Yep, there it is. Because now I can time travel whenever I want, and I have to hop between these two states in the environment to actually navigate it properly.
Lit.
Which is pretty rad. And there's still enemies, and they're still gonna give me problems, but like, for the most part, I can just skip all the combat because the enemies disappear from one time place to another. So all those turrets there, I can just kind of skip that. You see, turns out punching animals is not the best way to handle them, which is true in real life too.
Having raised 2 dogs, I can confirm that. They hate it when I punch them. I'm kidding. I would never.
Alright, also here's a fun little setup for me just being a jerk and having played this level a million times. So they're all going to come out of there, and I can deal with at least 2 of them just by... Aw, well, I died too fast. Oh. I forgot I need to pick up the other satchel charge from the other room. So, if you come in here with 3 satchel charges, which I did not, then you can time travel, throw one there, and then when they come in, you can just stand behind the desk, and when the 3rd door opens... Oh, oops. That's the wrong button. There we go. Get rid of most of them that way. And you're trying to get up through here, so more enemies will spawn in there, but you can just kind of skip it. This is some dumb wall running shenanigans. You're supposed to ride these up, but the wall running is pretty robust, and so you just kind of hop from wall to wall. And it looks cooler. Also, here's another little, like, interesting bit about, as far as the storytelling in this game goes. So I have to go around and kind of recover his logs as he was exploring this place. But the log maintains itself no matter what time space I'm in. So, which I just think is really weird when you think about, like, how narrative time works in general. Like, functionally, it's just 2 sets, and I'm just flipping between them. And the only difference is that the store is open. But temporally, in the space of the narrative, I'm experiencing the same conversation in 2 entirely distinct time points.
Gotcha.
Which just... It's just one of those things that, like, as somebody who's really interested in structural criticism, it, like, blows my mind a little bit. I'm like, whoa. Here's this thing that is probably useless and not worth talking about, but, like, my brain's all in for it. Okay, that should handle those guys. Cool. The rampant killing is... I really wish there was a way to do FPS without all of it.
I mean, yes. I mean, Metal Gear Solid is not an FPS, but I mean, that is one where you could theoretically get, like, especially Metal Gear Solid 3, you could go without killing anyone.
That is true.
Most people don't.
This one's empty.
I think Mirror's Edge, the original, you can do the same thing, although the game really disincentivizes you from ever picking up a gun. Simply because it would slow down your movement. It's another... Those will... Well, you can see, they kind of just will explode on top of me. They're very annoying, and you will find out that they're very difficult to deal with in the 2nd level I'm going to do today. Which includes the best BT Cooper moment of all time ever. Hands down. Oop. Let's not do that. And, that should handle those guys. So, also, usually my pilot has an ability, but the time travel is taking the place of the ability slot right now. Which also, for some reason... Well, I don't want to spoil that, actually. We'll get to that. This is a cool section, too. Just from a platforming standpoint. I'm just, like, fascinated by this time hopping.
Yeah, I could see why. I mean, it's very Portal-like to me.
Yes. Yeah, the designers... I was reading a little bit on the Wikipedia, because I was like, oh, man, I want to know a little bit about why they did this. Portal and Half-Life were inspirations for this particular level. Oh, no. Oh, wow, okay. Well, I survived that. And I think maybe that's most apparent with this little challenge. Where I now have to, like, toggle time in order to complete the wall run. Also, I'm supposed to deploy a bridge here, but Why would you do that when you can just ride on walls?
Yo.
Yeah, they, apparently the way they kind of wrote this game is they had these action cards, which were just set pieces they really wanted to do, and built between those set pieces a story, which is why the story is so milquetoast, but they did really, really try to make every level pop. And I can say with some certainty that I can play any level on stream, and it would have something nuanced and interesting in it from a mechanical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not something I can say for, I think, any Call of Duty game that has been produced ever. Except for maybe the first one.
I'm just trying to think about, like, are we talking story mode or online mode?
I'm talking about story mode.
Okay, yeah, agreed.
They produced... Oh yeah, Anderson's getting killed over there. Actually, I totally should have stayed over there. I missed that. So, in that little interaction, the soldier bangs his hand against the wall and breaks this device that I'm holding, which now, for some reason, I guess plot relevant-wise, works for me, but didn't work for him. So, that's fine. I'm not the kind of person who thinks continuity errors, like, ruin an experience. But it is kind of funny that they had him in a wall so I could pick it up, but he dies, like, deep in the facility.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure. That must have been just an oversight of some sort. Also, it can kind of just be hand-waved away, because who knows how the time travel has really affected the place. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that just got me into thinking about what happened in D&DM's last week. Like, a large part of the world is that, and the lore of the world that I made is that magic has only existed for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Now, like, 4 years. And so they were able to get this sort of, like, recording of Eric's character's sister, who was murdered 15 years ago. And I had it show someone essentially doing Finger of Death, which is a 9th level spell, to kill her. Because I was just like, oh yeah, that would make a really cool, like, kind of Avada Kedavra sort of thing, and boom, she's dead.
Yeah.
And then they were like, wait a second, but how did he have magic 15 years ago? And I'm like, shit, how did that happen? Wouldn't you like to know? And now I gotta come up with it. So, continuity errors are... They happen. Like, I know that it's fun to rag on game devs for those sorts of things, but, like, when you're creating an entire world space and working with a team of people, something slipped.
Yeah. And honestly, it's the bane of, I guess, YouTube criticism to just point out continuity errors and be like, haha, nuanced idea. Oh man, I really gotta survive here.
But I think that's all. I mean, a lot of, like, to preface it, like, a lot of schooling and grad school is kind of expecting you to look at something and go, I must tear this apart, rather than critiquing it or engaging with it in a way that doesn't necessarily go, well, they did a bad job at this, and as if to, like, boost up your own criticism.
Yeah.
Because you pointed out something that they did wrong. And I feel like that is a culture that exists both inside and outside of academia. But I think it exists too much in nerd culture as well.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely agree. By the way, this is my hacking knife. It's a knife that I put in things and it hacks them.
Nice.
And I like.
Anything's a USB drive if you believe in yourself.
It is. I actually think the hacking knife is hilariously amazing.
Have you do you listen to the Adventure Zone?
I do not.
Oh man, you need to. And there's second, like, part. One of the and like, I feel like if you listen to the Adventure Zone, you're not going to listen to Amnesty because it's not. It's like, it wasn't like a very. Not saying it wasn't popular, but it wasn't as well received as their first campaign. But one of the characters has a sword that essentially is the hacker knife, and like they like in part defeat the big bad because he just jams the sword into the port and scrambles the device.
That's awesome. That's actually amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, weird hacking. That's another thing that nerds, like nerd culture, gets mad about, is this idea that everything has to be, I guess, mimetic to some degree. Like that's not how hacking works, sort of thing. I don't know.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
never bothered me in games like this. Like if it's fun, do it. Like look at this. We're in the middle of a frozen temporal reality. There are people flying everywhere. Like there's a sort of horror and beauty to this scene that I've not seen in FPS before. It is not mimetic in the least. Like, there was no way something like this would happen, and yet, like, oh man, what a good set piece.
They're also relating it to their frame of reference of how hacking works in their world, in their time.
Yeah.
Without really acknowledging, like, shit can change, and also, like, this is a complete... I mean, I don't know where this is set and when this is set, but I imagine it's not set in our current.
No, I think it's like 2078 or something, I don't know. Like, not terribly far out, but, like, I may have that wrong. If somebody in the chat happens to be a Titanfall 2 lore expert, hit me with it. Tell me I'm wrong. Also, frog pose. This pose is also kind of genius for me, because it tells me an awful lot about BT as a character without having to do anything. You know? Like, I don't know how to describe it, but there's something about this that just... like works and clicks in my head, and I understand something about whether BT takes himself too seriously or not, and it seems like he doesn't somehow, even though he's very much like the left brain to... I guess it's not left brain's the smart one, right?
I am the left brain. Yep, Bo Burnham told me that is the smart side of the brain.
Good. And Bo Burnham's never wrong.
You know that song, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was like, I mean, yeah. It's such a good song.
Let's hope someone on our side is listening out there.
So we got the scan of the super weapon, and now we're on to try and broadcast that information to the fleet. And to do that, we got to get this beacon powered up. And me and BT got to go do this stuff together. And you'll see I have my pilot ability back, that eye in the left-hand corner, and that gives me a cloaking mechanism, which is very helpful for going fast. Which is, of course, the main thing that I do in this game.
Oh, sorry, I totally forgot to monitor chat. So we got chat saying dishonor, maybe you can kill peeps. Okay, this is back when we're talking about games that you don't need to kill. First person games where you don't need to kill, and they recommended Dishonor.
Ooh, I haven't actually played Dishonored, but I have heard very, very good things.
What is this fog?
Scanning. The ground fog is a toxic byproduct of the beacon power grid.
So, interesting little tidbit of lore here. The beacon is putting off a shitload of toxic exhaust. It's not really talked about other than I can't walk in it, but like, it's good to know that people in this time period also don't care about the environment.
They're signaling distress. Patching in.
I suppose. I'm probably only going to be using two loadouts, which is Expedition and Brute, because I like the Vortex Shield a lot, and I'll explain what that is when I end up using it. But, like, there are a lot of loadouts in this game. Most of these are usable in multiplayer, and they just integrated them seamlessly into your Titan so that you can switch between them as your playstyle, you know, changes throughout the game. Which is a very nice thing. Also, and this is just kind of, again, off-topic sort of stuff, but the best way to deal with this is for me to just run people over with BT. Actually, I can do this more efficiently. I have the chat open on the other window, and I think, what is it? Is that? So it's David Kotick. How nice. I'm not. That's his username, by the way. I'm not just dunking that. But first of all, thank you for joining us, and second of all, yeah, it is nice to be encouraged to like move. I do have to kill in certain sections. Like I have to be military guy, but like it is nice to be able to avoid it to some degree. Switch Expedition. And also, we're making good time, which is awesome. I could probably slow down a little bit for this level and show it off a little bit more. I was really worried about not being able to get through everything I wanted to.
Captain, what is the status?
Also, I'm glad the game didn't soft lock there on me, because if you get out of B2 too fast, sometimes this dialogue doesn't trigger. So that's fun. But yeah, we were talking about nerd culture and like nerd criticism. And yeah, I mean, like, it really is reductive to, I think, to artists to just focus on continuity errors as, like, the end-all be-all to whether something's good or bad. They really are difficult to avoid. I don't know if a lot of people who are making those kinds of criticisms understand that there is a person on set, on movies and productions like this, usually, whose job is just to make sure continuity is maintained, because it's that hard to do. Also, I don't know, Kelly, I can't hear you if you're talking.
Oh, no.
Okay, cool.
I was not talking, I was distracted.
Oh, okay. Totally fair. Alright. So now we're going to get into another fun little set piece where I have to traverse this, like, engine room in order to get the tool that powers up things. Oh.
Yo, yo.
Hello. Who's this?
This is Leia. Sorry.
Hey.
I interrupted you in the middle of talking, Ren.
Oh, it's totally alright. I'm not saying anything valuable.
False. I do believe almost everything you say is valuable.
Oh, very sweet of you. But yeah, I'm just running
Come
through
on now.
power.
You're in serious play now, Ren, where we support each other.
Ah, yes.
Learning to love yourself, too, Ren. Sorry, I just woke up, so if I'm a little punch drunk, I'm sorry. I am drinking coffee. Also, hi.
Hello?
I'm Leia, PhD candidate.
And
Rogue.
last-minute co-pilot.
Yeah, I wanted to come in at least for the second half.
Well, you got here just in time for, like, one of the cooler set pieces.
Hot.
I was saying I have to navigate this facility full of electronic equipment and not die, because it's full of robots that could kill me. And get an arc tool to power things back up.
Awesome. I've heard good things about Titanfall. It's got a very kind of like Mass Effect plus Halo vibe.
I would agree. Like from a visual standpoint, it's definitely there.
Yes. Yeah, just from literally very first impressions. Mass Effect is one of the few, like, I don't know, action-y games I've played. It's what I started on. Ooh.
Well, that went higher than I anticipated.
Whoa.
Yeah, you can list off tons of games that part of this feels like it took from and it added to. We were talking about Portal and Half-Life earlier.
That wall is literally just a portal wall. The one that you pass with the red stripe, where you were like floating over it, looked exactly like a portal wall.
Oh, crap, I forgot about that. I didn't replay this level before we did this, so I forgot the wind turbines just blow you into death.
So when you guys run Lunchzone, do y'all run games that you have played before mostly?
That is definitely a question not for me, because this is my first time doing it.
I do not, as shown by last week, where I scared myself shitless and had to stop early. Because I did not know what was happening. The only time I played a game on Lunchzone that I had played already was Ace in Space, when I did multiple weeks of it, because I wanted to get to different enemies. But when I first played it, I did not play it before. Because I think it's fun. It's I mean, here's the thing, like, there's a fun in sort of playing through and pointing out the things that you think are interesting and being able to talk about it, like, as someone who knows the game already. But there's also fun in, like, reacting and real time and sharing that sort of first play experience and working through it.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, so Ren, welcome to your first time doing Lunchzone.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
I've learned just now that I'm doing Lunchzone wrong. Look at that.
You're not. No, 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 no. It was more a discussion of like, so for instance, one of our people
Woo, here we
who
go.
does the arena was talking about whoa.
Yes, this part's really fun.
Nice.
Peak speed.
Oh, that's it's flying. That is so cool. Sorry. So they do the arena and then also speed running, and for both of those you have to kind of have played the game already, or at least one of the people who's playing needs to have played the game already. And so I was just wondering, because I also haven't usually played the games I'm playing, but that's because I find games to play for Lunchzone when I host Lunchzone. And also because I just haven't played that many games, so it's like easy for me to find games. And I also I have a pretty particular aesthetic, but I still haven't even played that many games in that aesthetic. So
Well, now I'm curious. What would you describe as your aesthetic?
I play horror games mostly, and or kind of dark vibe, like darker palette games for the most part.
The gritty.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Not everything is gritty. Like I played
Yeah.
Seasons After Fall, which is just a beautiful game. Like it has I like games that like in color have a lot of contrast.
So you'll like this scene a lot then.
Which Seasons After Fall is the reason I like that game is because of just the sheer amount of color in the color palette. But yeah, it is usually horror, and if it's not horror, it's usually gritty. And if it's not gritty, it's usually dark. So,
I don't think I have an aesthetic for games just yet. I will say, like, as far as this goes, I wanted to do this just because I enjoy it a lot, and I knew that, like, I was going to be nervous for a first episode of streaming anything, and it'd be nice to do something I'm at least familiar with.
right.
I'll admit, as an academic, this game is not the thing that tickles me the most, but
That's okay though. I think that you should definitely, particularly for your first time running a show live on Twitch, like you should choose something you're comfortable with, A, and B, like I think that there's a lot to be said for doing it both ways. Having a game that you know pretty well, that you've played through, that you're playing because you have academic thoughts about it already, and like you want to talk about it with people. And I think that there's also something to say, like, I've heard about this game, or I've wanted to play this game, or this game looks cool, and I want to see what my reactions are to analyze those reactions while in the midst of playing, right? So I think that there are totally valid reasons to do either or both of those things on any given Lunchzone. Like Nathan often plays games that he has played before, games he knows, games he believes people are going to like watching, right?
I miss Nathan.
Oh man, I miss Nathan too.
Like,
so
I saw him
much.
pop up in Slack, and I'm like, oh.
Nathan! No, Nathan is legitimately one of the best human beings on the planet.
here's my favorite. This is my favorite little moment, I think, in this entire game. I adore this.
Why?
It's even just... You'll see.
Okay.
I can throw you across the gap.
That's insane.
I am incapable of insanity.
Thank you, Gamer Anthro. Team Nathan.
Hmm.
Oh, you're gonna slingshot.
Yep.
Hot.
He's gonna throw me.
Yo. It is like the D&D dream of having the barbarian eat the gnome.
Yes. I do want to play those characters sometimes so hard.
Yup.
It's just awesome. It's just a great moment.
Nice.
I think I'm going to need some more pants.
I love shit like that.
No, that is beautiful.
Yep.
But I also... Oh, go ahead.
So go ahead, please.
Oh no, I'm just a huge fan of like small person and like, you know, soft, large person or construct that can totally wreck, but also is adorable as shit.
Yes. Big Hero 6 is in fact my
Yup.
favorite movie.
Yup.
It's not my
What do you
favorite movie, but
mean
it's up
I
there.
was
It's up
not talking about Baymax?
there. What do you mean? My text tone is
Yup.
Baymax. What do you mean?
Yup.
Ren, you don't know this because we haven't spent any time in real life together, but in physical presence, not real life. This is real life. But my text tone is in fact Baymax, telling me that he is my shit. Wow, I listen
It's
to
your
it every
text
day.
tone.
I know. Your personal healthcare companion? That's not right.
I've never seen Big
shit.
Hero 6, which is probably
Oh my
sick.
god, Ren! What is it? You're giving me a heart attack, Ren! Oh, we need to movie night now. It's required. We're gonna video share. You're gonna know the loveliness that is Big Hero 6.
So good.
So,
you should play Brothers, Kelly. Because there's a whole section
There is.
where you play with
Like a giant.
with a giant. Yeah.
But he's so slow.
He's so slow, but it's so cute.
I forget who, I was, maybe it was Lunchzone, but I was, observing one of the shows when we were playing it. I don't think it was when Ryan was playing it for couch surfing, but...
Crystal Lee played it.
That's when I watched it. Yup. With the dog barking.
So I think...
I mean, I'm also... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so about this level, just quickly, I think that there's a... It's interesting that they give you the fastball. That's what the fans call it, the fastball. And then after that, they give you this whole section where you're moving cranes around, which really slows down the encounter. Which seems like a really odd, if not poor, decision. What's interesting is that the speedrunning community has found a way to jump this entire chasm off of the fastball, and they've called this the super fastball. But you can just kind of bunny hop on the frames of all these things and get over to the beacon over, where is it? Over there, I think, without stopping. And then do it entirely in reverse.
Wow.
So, I don't know if the developers had thought that through to some degree. I think when you're building a game that has movement tech in it, you're probably thinking about speedrunning in 2014 to some degree.
Probably.
But, like, it's definitely interesting to think that you can just sidestep this whole slow process they've added in.
Yeah, no, speedrunning is fascinating to me. It's not something that I would likely ever attempt to even do with like 90% of the games, but it is
Let's
cool.
just keep talking about extra interesting things so Gamer Anthro can't do it.
Yes, indeed. Crystal Lee is sitting behind me. I don't know what she's doing. She might be in a meeting.
Not for long.
Oh, geez. No, she's like in here talking,
Huh.
and I just I'm like literally staring at the video, and I don't even know. Hopefully she hasn't been talking to me. I've been hearing the murmur, but I didn't, I don't know.
Alright. And we got the big crane out of the way. I think that's the last crane,
Just
which is good.
come join us for 20 minutes, Crystal Lee. We've got 19 minutes left.
Yes. And a boss fight coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I definitely... This set of levels caps off really well. Oh crap, that guy. Forgot about him.
Here's a question. What makes a good boss fight for y'all?
Oh God, when there isn't one.
Really?
In video games? Okay, so here's the
Yeah.
thing. Here's the bit. I'm really bad at video games. So I like dying if it's funny. For instance, inside, when you die, it's always funny. Even as it is heartbreaking, it is usually funny. And so when I die 50 times on a short puzzle, it's fine. But when it's a fucking boss fight where I have to fucking watch the cutscene, and so you have to understand that I am currently in a spot like I turned Mass Effect on 1 onto normal for my on my console's last playthrough, and there's this part at pretty much the very beginning of the game, and I have currently died 90 times.
On normal.
On normal.
I'm not judging, I swear.
It's fine if you judge. I judge myself. It's fine. So, and I have played through Mass Effect on easy, like more than one time. So, up until the very last boss fight, which I never actually play because I can't decide who I want to take with me, and so I just never play it. But that's another story. But I literally, it's just this most annoying thing ever, and I will stop playing a game entirely if I die too many times, because I just don't have the dexterity. So for me, boss fights are like, nah.
Oh,
but that's because, you know.
There we go. Voice
Then
smoke.
D&D, that's a different, entirely different conversation. But in video games, I don't know. How about y'all who actually play video games answer that question? Sorry.
The soundtrack and the intro.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's
Like how they set up, like I'm not talking about the cutscene. Like I actually feel like cutscenes before boss battles are kind of frustrating, especially if you die a lot because you have to rewatch them. But I'm talking about just like the way that they enter in at the start of the battle could be so fucking cool.
There we go. For me, it's exactly that. It's mostly atmosphere. Like, most boss fights are pretty similar. But, like, Final Fantasy 15, the fight against, I don't know, Leviathan, is awesome because of the music. It's awesome because of the atmosphere. It's awesome because of the story context for what I'm doing. The other thing that gets me is interesting mechanics, interesting moments. And it's going to be something really simple. Like this gun that I'm holding right here is a shotgun that fires in a line. And you can see the front of it open and close. It's just fun to use, on principle. It sounds nice. It feels nice. It looks cool. If I have something like that in a boss fight that I can, like, get behind using, I'm infinitely going to enjoy the boss fight more.
I mean, I would say that is true of like the D&D boss fights that I have run, that I feel like are the most successful. Is like most of the time people don't super love combat that runs, you know, a full 4 sessions. But I have found that when it runs 2 sessions and it's a boss fight that matters, and then also that is difficult, and so people have to use all of the cool things that they never get to use, and are also encouraged, if you build it right, to play off of each other's talents, which is something Kelly has done a couple of times, created kind of, not as, well, I would call them boss fights, mini bosses, that have allowed us to work together, and use our cool powers in a cool way. Like, that is definitely where I have found the most enjoyment. Either as a DM.
Battle?
What?
So you mean the Chain Devil battle?
Ooh, Chain Devil's
no,
rough.
because that did not allow us to work together. That separated us, and then didn't allow us to do jack fucking shit. There's a reason that I will never not play. I will always play a magic user in Kelly's campaigns, and I will always take freedom of movement. And there is a reason for that. Always. Because
I just need to make that buff spell very useful.
Yeah, because she does nothing but grapple everyone all the time. And
Oh my god.
stop us from being able to move all the time.
Every character has Tavern Brawler. Oh, also, this is a really good moment, too, as far as, like, characterization between the buddy cop characters.
Got you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's so cool. Thumbs up. Oh man.
That's adorable as shit.
Oh, that's so adorbs.
It's just a little gem of a relationship in an otherwise pretty mediocrely written game, and like, man, maybe that's the thing to talk about, is why BT and Jack Cooper work, even though individually both of them kind of suck.
Well, I mean, it's the of mice and men.
Reapers inbound.
That's the
Oh.
wrong reference. It's the
I did it again. Oh no. I'm sorry.
Sad.
If you stand,
That was sad.
if you go too fast there, they will like drop in and instantly kill you, and I completely forgot about it twice.
Reapers inbound.
Man, that's beautiful.
Sorry. You were saying?
No, you're fine.
Control. Threats detected.
There is something about the like powerful little dude, powerful big dude, combine like cuteness. Like that is I don't know that I want to call it a trope, but it is an often used, but not often enough used bit that I think adds a lot of flavor, because it adds relationship and action. Like, it's something easily seen, like, we are friends. And you can tell that we are friends through this very obvious action of helping. I trust you enough to allow you to throw me across, you know, an area. And so it allows character development without any words at all, right?
Yeah.
Anomaly detected. Possible.
And like that's the in a FPS game, that's the premium, right? Is
Right.
little dialogue, high action, as much characterization by interaction you possibly can do. It's
Right.
why Doom Guy in Doom 2016 works at all.
Right.
I mean, you could argue that people who play shooters probably wouldn't care if he wasn't really a really well-developed character, but
Right.
there are little interactions with the environment that make it clear that, you know, he has a stake in this. And I
Right.
think that's important.
Right, well, there's the, yeah, I think it's, it's this implicit trust that we don't often, I would say that we don't often see IRL. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
Enemy Titan down.
yeah. You don't get to trust people physically like that very often in your life, right?
That's a really
unless-
interesting point.
Unless you are like a mountain climber or like, you know, a kind of extreme sports person or something like that. Like you don't enter into those types of scenarios very often, and so
Flight core ready.
I swear this
know.
is hard mode. I don't know why this guy's just letting me win, basically.
there is a
Okay, here we go.
nice.
Care to have a real fight? Let's see what you got up close and personal. Oder willst du weglaufen, ihr kleiner Junge?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's begin.
Like, I think that there is a lot to be said for wanting.
God, I forgot how hard this guy is. Oh no, he's just destroying me.
Something a lot to be said for wanting that kind of relationship, someone that you trust so much that you would allow them to put you in physical danger, but also know that you would be safe.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it really is just a longing for that kind of connection in a sense. I want to believe that that's true because it's very poetic. Oh no.
I mean, I think that that is one aspect of it. I don't think that there is ever one answer to any of the questions we are asking, right? There are always multiple ways to look at anything, and also multiple perspectives to come at it with that are going to give you a different kind of ending thought, you know?
Yeah.
So, is it just that? No. Is it at least... I think it's partially that, though.
Enemy Titan down.
And that's that. It was probably an unceremonious boss fight, because I didn't even really explain what I was doing, but... a quick quick recap. I switched, so you can switch between different modes for your Titan. Brute just happens to be very good in this campaign mode. I've got a rocket launcher that does single shot and multi-shot. I've got tracking missiles. I can fly, but this is a great way just to get yourself shot. The reason you play this build in particular, online or in general, is because Vortex Shield is disgusting. This is a shield that picks up people's, like, rockets and fires it back at them.
Oh, hot.
Yeah, and it's interesting, actually. That is a mechanic that is in Bioshock Infinite. It isn't a Vigor, but it's I don't know if it's very effective, because I haven't heard of it, a lot of people really using it, but I mean, who's really peaking their performance in that game? But more importantly, there's like an oomph to it that you get when you're dealing with rockets and mechas that you just don't get when it's a person walking around and doing it with bullets.
Oh, for sure.
And that's all. I mean, one of the things that fascinates me about FPS games is how much sound design is important to game feel.
100%.
Yes, I tried to talk about this with Eric on Game Design Month, but he didn't bite.
Oh, really? How can you not bite with that?
Well, he was talking about something different, and it like tangentially related to sound design, and he's like, no, that's not what we're talking about yet. I'm like, but I want to talk about it now.
Well, here's your
So
chance.
It is 100% not Eric's fault that we did not talk about it, because I was just trying to shoehorn my thoughts into his thoughts. But no, like, especially like just thinking about, so not just sound design in terms of how much it affects first-person shooters, but how much it affects accessibility in first-person shooters, because when you rely on these sonic cues to know when someone is close or when a certain kind of thing is about to happen, well, there's no closed captions for that sort of stuff, especially in live play. So, thinking about sound design, not just in terms of like, wow, this is a really cool thing that helps players know things, but also this is a cool thing that is only helping certain players learn some things about the game.
Yes, he had no other options.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I can't imagine what it would be like to play this game and not be able to hear the pop of the guns, right? Like, I mean, it really is, for me, it's a game feel thing. I don't enjoy playing FPS games where the gun doesn't feel like it's kinetic, if that makes sense. Like, if the gun doesn't, if I can't like hear something that I associate with the force of what I'm doing, I'm much less likely to care about it in general or find it fun. And obviously there's, what you're talking about with accessibility issues is, can get down to what you were talking about earlier, the idea that sometimes you need sound cues in order to play a game, and if you don't have them, then there's no way to really get that experience. But I mean, I just, like, the feeling of playing a game, that abstract notion itself is probably incredibly different, and I'm not sure how you would begin to solve that issue.
Well, I think, like, there are some games that I will play on silent because it is too much. So, like, particularly very explodey games, I just don't play with the sound on because it literally stops me from being able to focus on the game. Because it's too much noise. But I get overwhelmed by noise pretty easily. So there's also that.
So,
like,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm just gonna quickly, we've got like 4 more minutes, so I'm gonna load up a different mission quickly that's at least more visually interesting, but you guys can get to where you were going. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, so I don't know. I like that the controllers now will, like, react, in your hands.
Yeah.
as physical stimulus when you're hit or like, you know, when a bomb goes off or whatever. I think that's kind of cool. Like,
and they have sounds coming out of it now too.
Yeah? I have a 360 and an Xbox One that I never turned on.
Gotcha. So like for Horizon Zero Dawn, for example, most of the sounds come out of the TV, but in the PS4 remote, when you activate your sort of like tech, like it's sort of like the best way I could describe it is the technological version of like the Witcher, like witch ability that Geralt has. So when you press that button, there's a little like boop sound on that comes out of the controller. So because it's like close to you, you are activating something that is on your person. So it's kind of like marrying the relationship between player and controller to character and technological device.
There's 100% a paper there, just for everyone. That idea of bringing the character.
Yeah, as I was saying, I was like, I could write about this.
So like one of the things that I have to do more research on this because again, like my experience with video games is so limited. But in like my own personal experience, but the idea that the screen is in front of you, it's away from you, and so you map yourself into a game. But for tabletop, you map the character onto yourself.
Yeah.
That's not universally true for everybody, because I do think that there are people that really identify with the characters in video games in terms of like mapping on, like I am that person.
But I feel like that comes from different sorts of like I feel like that comes from the sort of metagame and things that they do outside of the game. Not that in the moment they are that person as strong.
Okay, yeah, I would argue no, and that is because I have had people who are into video games tell me that I'm wrong. That is not something that I experience, but I think that it is something that people do experience. I think that there is still something to the idea that you map.
Yeah, you know what? You are right. Because I'm thinking back to when Ryan and Rachel played that one co-op game where you escape from a prison, and player 2, like there's this one part where they strip you down, and in that moment, Rachel commented, she's like, I felt naked, I felt exposed when playing that. So.
Right. Yeah, and I think that you still, like, I think it's a different action to map yourself into a video game as it is, like, to become a person in a video game versus becoming a person at the table. And I think that there is 100% something to say about that, and I think that when you have a controller that then brings that character to you, then it becomes a different experience of the character.
That's how I haven't played
start
this.
to bridge that gap. Oh.
Yeah, I'm having a moment
sad.
here.
Dying. So much dying.
At the end.
Just like pwn that boss fight, but then we get here and you're just like, nope.
Rip.
But yeah, I mean, I think one day I will write my paper about that a whole bit.
Good enough.
I'm not good at that whole like getting writing done thing.
Same.
It's really hard. It's really hard to like sit down and just like convince for me it's starting. If I can put the pen to paper, I'll write 4,000 words in 3 hours, but like, you know, I'm not gonna do that unless I can start, and I almost never find myself in a position where like, man, I'm really gonna be able to do that.
I'm hoping that because I have to do notes all the time for participant observation stuff, and I'm hoping that then later translates into a habit of writing, because writing up notes is different than actually like writing a paper, because one of them is very descriptive, the other one is not.
Requires a lot of brain juice.
but I'm hoping that I can just get into a habit of writing, whatever that writing is, right? That is my hope. That's why originally I was going to do a blog when I was doing my research, and that just hasn't effing happened. I've written a couple of posts, but nothing like super real.
Just all of the dreams that died in March of 2020.
I think I can get it. Can I get it?
Right.
No, I can't get it. I wanted
Well, there's a good chance that I would not have blogged whether
yeah.
or not COVID happened. Like, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, just because of the amount of, just sheer amount of shit that I am into. As you all know, I do too much stuff.
No
and so
way.
do not have time
I
for
never
everything.
would have known.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a problem. It's a problem I have. That's a problem I have. But it's fine. Everything's fine. I'm just gonna have to start taking some days off of Tuesday, Thursday D&D.
But I love Thursday D&D.
I also love Thursday D&D, but I can't do it every week anymore.
I know.
That's just that whole problem with school starting, and like I actually don't know when teaching is going to happen.
Yup.
Like, I know when teaching is going to happen because I have a schedule, but I don't actually know when teaching is going to happen. When am I going to grade? I have no clue. Like, I'm just going to have to sleep less when COVID says that's a lie.
I'm just so lucky in a way because as having to be a mentor, Siobhan's like, alright, we gotta get all them materials for the whole semester ready for the incoming cohort. So like it's in part my job to get that done, which also means I'm getting my, entire semester laid out before it starts.
Man, when you get into close combat, this shit gets bloody.
Yes, it does. And hard. So
Sorry.
here,
Noting the blood spatter, and I was like, wow.
like, maybe the most efficient way to take people down in the game is to wall run off of something and then kick them in the face.
I am noticing
that works in most contexts, let's be real.
But that like puts your foot right where the blood spatter is, and the connection's loud, and
So I don't have the game sound on, because otherwise I hear myself. That's a no-go for me.
Yeah, you get a nice big pop, which is, I mean, that gets into like another part of shooters that's kind of weird. Is like, are we glorifying violence in the space of these games? And if we are, then like, is there a way to do that? Is there a way to manage that responsibly, or is there no way to ever make a game about a military context, like say a Call of Duty, that responsibly handles the violence that it's engaging with?
There is a way, and they're choosing not to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's much harder.
Like, I just think, I mean, it's not a Call of Duty game or a first-person game, but in Metal Gear Solid 3, there's a literal boss fight where you don't fight them, you just walk along a river with them, and the more people you killed up until that point in the game, the longer the boss fight is, because their spirits and, their sort of like corpses just walk towards you. So if you didn't kill anyone during the game, you just walk 30 seconds and the boss fight is over. Middle school Kelly took an hour to walk that.
Oh my god, really? That's a very Hideo Kojima game.
I mean,
I like it.
I think that there is a way to do it without. I think there is a way to even if you are glorifying it, to give it consequence, at least, right? Because there's very little, I think, that isn't, like, when we're talking about a war game, you're killing people.
Yeah, there's no consequence to this.
So there definitely, there's gonna be a glorification of that violence, kind of, I think, no matter what you do. But then if you put in the consequence of that violence, like, then there's it becomes more than the glorification of it, and I think that that's important. But there's also something to be said of like, it just feels good to go kill some bad guys and call it a goddamn day. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's more than the glorification already. A lot of the time, like for some people, it's just the glorification of violence and kind of continuing to construct, reconstruct, and reinforce ideas of violence that are extremely problematic. But I think for a lot of people, it's a catharsis. It's a getting away from, but it's also fun and like, you know, like we haven't gotten away from having a violent culture, so this is gonna be fun for people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we were talking about the hacking knife earlier as something that's kind of interesting from a perspective of, oh man, that's cool. But like, it's a knife that hacks things. You insert it into things, and it takes control of them. And there's something inherently violent in that, I think.
I mean, but I also love the sort of play on words of hacking, because like you can still hack with a knife physically, but then there's also the technological hack.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think that it spans multiple types of violence too, right? Like it's not only literal violence that is using the knife to like stab someone, but it's also like the taking over, right? Like that is it's a different type of violence.
Voodoo 1, Viper's on station. Your journey ends here, pilot.
Oh, I hate this guy.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Tally, engaging bandit.
I am happy to continue on. It is 108.
Yes, I'm ready.
I
can
just wanted to throw that out
whenever.
there.
I have to set up for D&D ads.
Okay.
I'll just go ahead and quit out of it. I'm like fine to stop if you guys want to.
I'm fine to keep talking.
Okay.
Whether or not we stop stream, I don't care either way.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to see where we're going with this because I feel like we're getting somewhere. That's always a nice feeling.
It tends to happen. So back in the day, we used to do this thing called Deep Dive, where we would play a game for 3 to 4 hours because we found in the lunch zone. It was always at the end of lunch zone that we had finally gotten to a point where we felt like we were saying something, and then we had to stop.
I am gonna peace out with y'all for talking.
Yeah, for sure. But most of the time we don't have time. Graduate students often do not have time for that 3-hour chunk every week.
Oh yeah, I forgot he's just gonna do this nonsense. Which is meme. Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, before Kelly left, this game is very interesting in that there are places where it very clearly doesn't take itself terribly seriously. Like, for instance, the sniper I was using earlier is called the double take because it fires 2 bullets alongside each other. It's a very silly thing to call a gun. Ironically, or maybe not ironically, it's not the right word, I guess in that same kind of vein of, oh, this is funny, you know, the Apex Legends equivalent of that gun is called the triple take, and it fires 3 bullets. So,
well, I mean, we name our guns, right?
Yeah.
Like that is a thing that we do. They become, you know, that's a part of the cultural understanding of what guns are. They are objects that hold so much meaning, in part because they take life, you know, like that's their whole job.
Yeah.
So of course they hold a lot of meaning, and when things hold a lot of meaning, we often name them, whether that is like, you know, the standard kind of like Jane in Firefly names, I think Betsy, the name of his like favorite gun. That's everywhere, you know, when you have kind of like the fighter frontliner dude. He or she often, they often have, you know, like a name for their gun, almost anthropomorphizing it.
Yeah, and that's, I guess to some extent that must come out of the tradition of like naming swords, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, if a weapon has
naming
importance,
violent weapons. Yeah.
then it has a name, which itself is kind of magical thinking.
Oh, 100%. It's a I mean, we do that to objects all the time, right? Like my cars usually have a name. And we ascribe personalities to those things. Particularly things that we have an affinity for, or things that we feel have an affinity towards us, even if they don't, like even if they can't. I don't know.
Yeah, I think also when we're talking about naming and I guess the texture of this game, if you will, BT is the only Titan that seems to have a personality of his own, and he's also the one with like, is the only one with his own distinct name.
Really?
Yeah. No, you know, it's a coding thing. There we go. It's a coding thing, but like Viper is the name, the code name for this guy who I just killed. It's not the name of his Titan.
Yeah.
Whereas BT actually has a name. Which, I mean, it serves a functional purpose to some degree. BT, obviously, here is damaged. I will just spoil it. BT does die.
Oh.
Yeah, and,
that's
you know...
tragic!
It really is. Well, he dies, I suppose. We technically get his AI core, so he can be resurrected, but...
Okay.
But, like, it's not obvious whether resurrecting him will actually bring him back or just reset his personality.
Okay.
And so, you know, it gets into that AI thing.
Right.
But I mean, if you want somebody to care about a character that's dying, it's not very good if they're not named.
Well, right, like there's that whole, like, if you don't name a pet, you won't care if you can't keep it, right?
Yeah.
Like, naming things gives the thing a meaning it didn't have before.
Ah, yes. Button. I want to sit here all this dramatic music and just W key. Oh man, you missed earlier. It was press mouse scroll wheel to time travel. It's a very fun key press notification. It's not press F to pay respects, but it's pretty good.
I really want to know who Weak Copy is now, because that is a phenomenal play on your name.
Get the arc out of here.
Negative.
Oh man.
Oh, that's incredible.
Hi, Weak Copy.
What are you
So,
doing?
Protocol 3. I will not lose another pilot.
I don't know how much longer we're going to be on, because we're kind of over time for Lunchzone right now, but we were having such a good discussion we wanted to continue it.
Yeah, I figured we would at least cut the stream at the end of this mission, which is right here,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
No, right now, at this black
Yeah,
screen.
at this weird spot screen. Which also, this game doesn't have a lot of cutscenes. I think that, you know, if we're talking about, like, characterizing BT and naming and stuff like that, it is very helpful to the game that it doesn't actually stop you very often. The conversations happen, you make choices about what Jack's gonna say, even if those choices don't really affect the narrative terribly much. I think even just having that level of agency is really helpful in terms of making somebody care.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have some agency, and that agency has to give some texture.
Yes.
Because if the agency gives no texture, then it's useless. It doesn't feel like real agency, in my opinion.
So I guess that was a dive into a touch of Titanfall 2, more than I thought we would get through, especially since I played, like, hot butt in the Ark mission. Like, my god. Really nailed it. The game is not very long for those of you who have joined us for this whole thing and may be interested. It's also old, so it might be pretty cheap. This mission is a factory that's building, like, a fake world, and so there's a ton of really interesting platforming in this one. There's a whole time-stopping part of this mission at the end that's just beautiful again. Obviously, you had that flight mission. Trial by Fire is almost all Titan combat, which I don't find particularly entertaining, but some people do. Blood and Rust is just excellent atmosphere. And then this is your starter mission. It's the bane of speedrunners because it's very hard to use the jump kit in a natural environment where the walls are not flat. Which is actually also its own discussion about manufactured environments and colonization and how that relates to maybe the game mechanics here. Man, okay, that's a really good idea, and holy fuck, where has that been this whole stream?
Right, like, well, I mean, like, also, like, how, I mean, like, here, you would say the nature and the mechanics make it harder to move through a natural world, but when that world is smoothed out by the technology, it then becomes more easily navigatable. Which is also, yeah, that's a fascinating discussion. Again, this is what happens at the end of Lunchzone. we just are like, oh man, yeah, connections, what?
Whoa, look at that. Oh man.
It's often in the summing up that some of the best conversations start to get started. Unfortunately, it's also right when we have stopped playing the game, and also, you know, when the person who is playing the game is summing up and therefore is actually able to have like a in-depth discussion because they are not doing both things at the same time. It's one of the reasons why Nathan only plays games that he has played before for the most part, is because then he feels like he can have a conversation while he's playing the game because he doesn't have to think about the controls as much.
That's totally fair.
But yeah, Coffee, thank you for like joining us for the last couple of minutes. Ren, thank you so much for running this. This was like a really fun discussion. I'm sorry I didn't get here.
Oh no,
at noon.
It's fine, and like, I'm glad I got a chance to run it. I was gonna run it like 3 weeks from now, but now I gotta find a new game for that. Also, the multiplayer. If Arena is looking for a fun multiplayer game, I will just flatly say the multiplayer is excellent. It is.
Yeah, talk to Eric or Janelle. I mean, I'm sure if you ever want to join them, they're always open to have people. So
yeah, it's you know, the multiplayer is not just team deathmatch; it is a squad-based game. So
fun.
That's cool. You know, you can pick your Titans, you can pick from whatever else, and you can build your loadout, and it's fast-paced, just like the main game. So strategy is not. You're not thinking much on that end, which maybe is I don't know how the arena works entirely. Maybe that's not the best thing. But for people who are interested in the chat and playing it, the multiplayer is good. There are still people playing the multiplayer, even though this came out in 2014. Its ecosystem is alive and well.
I think they mostly do MMOs, but honestly, I'm not sure.
Here we can.
The
go
arena
into the
definitely
infinite regress, but
oh yeah, are we ending stream? Because if we are, I'm gonna say bye, friends.
Yes, I believe we are.
It's been real, and thank you for coming to join us.
Thank you for joining us on this lovely journey.
Yeah, see you in 40 minutes for Doctors and Dungeon Masters if you want to stick around.